Yo, what's up guys? I got pokeaim here with another Pokemon Sword and Shield moveset video guide on how to use Frosmoth. Now this is actually a highly requested video, and I don't know, I was a little bit disappointed in this Pokemon when it came out. I'm just gonna go on a little rant here, tangent, whatever. A little bit disappointed. I was hoping it'd be the new Volcarona, and if you guys didn't know, Volcarona is a bug and fire type that can quiver dance up, can roost, and is just incredible. Has a great speed stat, great special defense stat, great special attack stat, and honestly, Frosmoth could have been that had it had a better speed stat and access to Roost, but I mean that's besides the point. It probably will eventually get Roost, not in this generation, but in at least a future game. But the big things about Frosmoth is that it has an inability to really deal with fire types as well as steel types. Though there are some little things you can do to help you check those a little bit better, and we'll talk about them in a sec. However, this Pokemon has a really cool ability in Ice Scales, which doubles the Pokemon's special defense. So that's really cool, especially because it only has base 90 special defense, so that's double. That's amazing. Like, the actual stat is double. It's just so cool. So it can take special hits really well, and it still does have access to Quiver Dance, which boosts its special attack, special defense, and speed all in one turn. Unfortunately, though, with that base 65 speed, it's going to need at least one or two in order to do any massive, well, in order to outspeed anything, really. But the cool thing is with that great special defense stat due to its ability and the introduction of the heavy-duty boots, which means it's not being absolutely murked by Stealth Rock. That's such a huge thing, man. Ice and Bug, 4 times weak to Stealth Rock, man. You know what's crazy? If you have like the Steel Stealth Rock, man, and the regular Stealth Rock, and them spikes, well, you don't even need them spikes. Well, yeah, spikes. Yeah, Frosmoth just dies. So I don't know why I say you didn't need them, but yeah, that mom will just die. But anyway, the first set we're going to be talking about is probably one of the more standard sets that you'll see on Frosmoth. Now I'll be talking about this in terms of a Dynamax meta game, because Dynamax might still be available where you're playing, whether that be in Battle Spot or versus your friends. Of course, though, since the majority of what I like to talk about also handles 6v6 as well as Smogon, Dynamax isn't allowed, but I'll still be talking about it either way. Now, this is probably going to be the most standard set, and it's going to be a Quiver Dance set with Ice Beam and Bug Buzz. Those are your dual stabs. And then your last move is either going to be Hurricane or Giga Drain. Hurricane will give you a neutral hit versus fire types, which do resist the Ice and the Bug Buzz. Whereas Giga Drain gives you a nice way of hitting Gastrodon as well as Seismitoad for 4 times effective damage, and also dealing with Haze Milotic. So you can Quiver Dance and Giga Drain as they haze and just beat them down with that, potentially. If they don't have haze, you can do more damage to that. It also is noted that that can be cool for max overgrowth. But again, Hurricane is usually used because not only does it give you a good neutral move versus fire types, and I say good in like quotations because obviously it's only 70% accurate, but if you are using Max Airstream, the Dynamax move, and Dynamax your Frosmoth, you also get +1 speed from using this move as well, so that can help out with the, you know, the speed in terms of Frosmoth, right? Like, obviously that base 65 speed is not a lot, but you don't run Timid, max special attack, max speed, heavy duty boots, that way you can avoid that hazard damage, and this Pokemon needs a lot of support. I think some of the best supporters are basically strong fighting types. Lucario, Sirfetch'd, Beware, Passimian, could go on, Komao, because they help deal with steel types, and that's something that Frosmoth really does not like at all. So just being able to close combat through those or deal with those steel types, but also Pokemon that can deal with fire types as well, or even defensively can deal with steel types like Arcanine. Arcanine can deal with them defensively or offensively. Komao can still deal with those fire types too. Charizard is a really cool offensive partner as well, because it just breaks through all them steel types with Flamethrower, especially on some Sun teams, which we'll be talking about in a second. And then I think the Blade is a good partner as well, helping you deal with, not only does it resist the steel moves coming out, also the rock moves, but it also can check a Pokemon like Braviary, Scarf Braviary, even regular Braviary, which does outspeed Frosmoth and can knock it out with Brave Bird. And lastly, I like Obstagoon a lot because Obstagoon can knock off steel types items with knockoff, or it can hit them with a guts boost at close combat, helping out Frosmoth. Again, the cool little thing about this Pokemon is that it can just really make advantage of, or take advantage of, the heavy duty boots, and Ice Beam is just a really good move, man. Freezing an opponent could change the day. Now the second set I think is a lot more fun, and it kind of helps with that weakness versus either rock or mainly steel types. I didn't mean rock types, I think. I meant fire types, excuse me. Fire types and steel types. And that's using Weather Ball over Hurricane and Giga Drain. So the next set is a Sun. It's basically, you have to run this on either a Sun team or I guess technically a Sand team too. But with this, you would run Torkoal or Ninetales to set up the Sun with Drought. And the idea is Weather Ball becomes a fire type attack in the, it power doubles, and it becomes a fire type attack in the Sun. So that's a really cool way of dealing with Pokemon like Caparaja and Escavalier and Bronzong, who would otherwise just deal with you, or even Ferrothorn, which can shrug off your hits if you're crazy and using it in the OU tier. But that's a really cool way, and it's basically the same exact set as before. You just got rid of Hurricane, you got rid of Giga Drain, and you traded it for Weather Ball. And I just think it's a really fun way to use Frosmoth. Especially because Sun is good, right? Torkoal helps you out with the Steel types anyway. Same thing with Charizard, right? And then, like, the rock types are dealt with by Pokemon like Shiftry or Leafeon offensively. So they pair really well together, I think. And even though it's an ice type, it can work decently well on Sun. And of course, if you want to be, I think Hippowdon is also a pretty cool partner defensively for Frosmoth as well. We're still talking about the Weather Ball set, but defensively, because it kind of just shrugs off hits from a lot of the fighters, a lot of the steels. Well, fighters don't really matter because obviously Frosmoth can threaten them with Hurricane, but a lot of them are still faster. Though not Beware, which is a pretty big one. But you threaten them. Hippowdon can basically sit on a lot of the steel types, take their hits, threaten them back with Earthquake, get up Stealth Rock, slack off, or even phase them out if they try and set up or something. And I think it pairs really well too because it gives Frosmoth a rock type Weather Ball, which would be super effective versus fire type. So you'd have a way of hitting Charizard, you'd have a way of hitting Arcanine, which I think is really cool for Frosmoth as well. So that's why I think Weather Ball has a niche, at least. Of course, you always want to run heavy duty boots. Well, not always, because I have a set here without heavy duty boots, but for the most part, you want to run heavy duty boots on Frosmoth. I mean, it's no secret that like this mon is weak to a lot. But it does have some pretty cool resistances as well. Another cool partner could be potentially if you're crazy and want to use this thing in the OU tier. Toxapex is probably one of the main Pokemon that can be very scary, so you can use Frosmoth plus Dugtrio. Dugtrio can Arena Trap Toxapex, and unless Toxapex burns you, you'll 2-hit KO it with Earthquake, and there you go. Frosmoth has a lot more fun. Also, Dugtrio can trap Excadrill outside of Sand, and I mean, if you want to use it in UU, if you're even crazier, you can use Choice Band Trapinch. Trapinch has base 100, it might be a baby, but it has base 100 attack, and it can still trap certain threats as well, like steel types, for instance. Alright, so the next set we have is I hope I didn't cut myself off there because I actually had to go into the door. But the next set we have is a supportive set, actually, using Frosmoth for its ability to U-turn and defog. So Frosmoth, obviously, with the heavy-duty boots, will avoid hazard damage, Stealth Rock spikes, Steel spikes as well. Steel Stealth Rock, excuse me, from G-Max Caparaja, Sticky Web, and Toxic spikes. So it can actually defog them away. And because this kind of generation doesn't have very many either Rapid Spinners or defog users, it's always okay, I think, to use it as an option. I do think that the Quiver Dance sets will be and are going to be a lot better, and I'm using the word better very loosely, but I do think that it has a better shot of being a defogger, or excuse me, a Quiver Dance user than this. But anyway, so this mon in itself, I feel like is okay because it can defog specifically on Ribombee, which is so common in the UU tier, being able to set up Sticky Web and whatnot. So you can Ice Beam and defog or U-turn, do it later. Another cool niche thing is that it can defog on Mamoswine's Earthquake, which I think is pretty big considering a lot of Pokemon that do get rid of hazards will die to Mamoswine's attack, whereas at least Frosmoth can shrug off one hit. But being able to beat like all the Webbers in the tier, or Sticky Webbers in the tier besides Araquanid, I think is pretty cool. And it also means you don't have to run like Noivern on every team if you're playing in the UU tier. That's a shout out to my friend Lily, by the way, because she always uses Noivern on all her teams. And I mean, I use them too, so they're good. But it definitely is a niche moveset, but I think Frosmoth in general is just a niche Pokemon that will be a little bit better maybe in like the lower tiers. Maybe if you're like lucky in Battle Spot and you can use like a Focus Sash Quiver Dance set, maybe that will work specifically. But I do think that if you want to try and get something out of this Pokemon, you probably use the standard set or like the Sun set. And by that I mean like the first 2 sets. Next set we have, I'm just going to give a little mention to this because this is actually something Volcarona ran at different points. And the reason Volcarona was able to get away with running a Resto Chesto berry set, it's called Resto Chesto. And the reason it was able to get away with this is because of its overall bulk, but mainly the flame body typing and its ability to actually get away with running max HP. I feel like Frosmoth isn't a Pokemon that can actually do that. However, in a metagame where it's pretty easy to wear down Pokemon via Dynamax or Hazards, and the fact that once you get rid of Steel types, this Pokemon is really hard to get rid of. Like for example, I can set up in the face of Gengar. Sure, it takes me, you know, a couple moves to be sure, it takes me a couple tries to get damage, but I can set up in the face of Gengar with my Ice Scales, and I can rest in front of them. Obviously, if they're boosted, watch out for the damage that they do to you. But using it to potentially set up on maybe like fatter teams. For example, teams that are running around in the U tier like Umbreon, Hippowdon. Frosmoth is a cool little Pokemon that can Quiver Dance up, doesn't really care too much about what they can go for outside of like Hippowdon's, I guess, Whirlwind. Really doesn't really run Stone Edge. It might, or Rock Slide at a given point. But this is a Pokemon that can set up in the front of those bulkier teams as long as you deal with the Steel type. So using it to Quiver Dance and rest up. However, this is you need to have Hazard support. Okay, we're not running heavy duty scales on this one, guys. We're running a Chesto Berry. I just said heavy duty scales. I just like mix the boots and the scales, but the heavy duty boots, we're not running them on Frosmoth. So you're going to need some extreme hazard support here. Now, I really like the combination, and I already talked about teammates. I talked about Pokemon that beat it throughout this entire time, but one last mention to specifically Passimian. Passimian is just a really good wall breaker, and its ability to just U-turn on fat Pokemon that want to come in on it and have Frosmoth come in. Like Hippowdon, for instance, comes in on Passimian. Frosmoth comes out and threatens Hippowdon with Ice Beam, right? But another cool thing about Passimian is it threatens out the Steel types, obviously, but it also goes for knockoff. And it gets rid of the item on most, if not all, Pokemon. And that's really big for Frosmoth because, again, while it is a strong Pokemon with base 125 special attack, it's slow, and chances are it's not going to be able to get up too much damage off on something. So just wearing them down with the combination of hazards and as well as the Ice Beams and Bug Buzz and U-turns from Passimian is just really cool. But yeah. That's it. That's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully I can get a Frosmoth video going up later today. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.